Okay, so for the first part of class today, all of the tribal posters that everybody did, I told everybody to have them due today. I left a message, Kylinda, for you. So with the tribal posters that are due today, I have everybody who has turned theirs in, they're in the hallway. And so I'm going to show, I took pictures of all the posters, and as everybody turns in their poster, I will add more to this one so you guys can look at all of them. But you're only responsible for reading the posters that are posted at the time that you do it. Okay, so the sooner you turn it in, the less you have to read, basically, for all the different tribes. So let me share, nope, where I have that at. As soon as it loads. Okay, so the tribe poster project, down at the very bottom, you'll see tribal poster reflection. That's the one that you're going to be clicking on to do this assignment. Once your poster is done and turned in, this is where I'll assign the credits to, is this assignment after you've turned in your poster and brought it to school. And so when you click on this tribal poster reflection, this assignment will have a link right here for you to go to a Google Drive folder where it'll have pictures of every tribe, or pictures of every poster, even up close pictures so you can read it, because I do want you guys to read each other's posters. Here is the tribal poster reflection. It's just, most of these questions are pretty simple, such as like, which tribe has a food that you would love to eat, or a game that you'd like to play? Which tribe is closest or furthest to where we're at right here? What tribe seems to be really close to Northern Ute culture? What is something that the tribes have that are in common with each other? Like, what's one thing that you seem like, oh, most of these tribes have this? You know, that's number 6. Number 7, one thing that most tribes seem to have that's very different from each other. So it's like, oh, they all have a different way of doing this. Or, you know, it's just something that's pretty different amongst most of the tribes that you learn about in the posters. And the 8 and 9 are about, most interesting thing about the other tribes you learned about today. So these are the posters. Number 9 is about your own tribe that you've researched. And then number 10 is just a general question. So that is the reflection assignment that you need to fill out and turn in. So the Google folder, my internet's going super slow. All right, who else do we have today? Oh, Cam's on. Okay, so here is the folder that I mentioned. So it's got each of these, and I'm going to be putting on, when you get started, I'm going to be putting on another one because someone just barely turned theirs in. So I will add a 6th one to here. So you're just going through and reading through. So like the Lakota one, you'll open it up and you'll open up these 3 pictures. You'll look at them. The first picture is always going to be just a picture of the whole poster. And then each picture after that will be a zoomed in picture so you can read the information and get it. So you're just going to go through each of these folders to learn about these different folders. And yeah, that's all you're doing for the first part of class. The second part of class today, we're going to be watching a video. So what I want you to do, those who are watching this later, I'm going to pause recording so you'll just be able to watch this right after. We're going to watch this video. So in your, let's see, in your modules, you'll have an assignment that's down further. Hang on a second. Once it loads. Okay. Oh my heck, are you kidding me? I didn't even put it on there. Okay, let me put it on there real quick. We're going to transition with this video to talking about what happened as soon as Europeans got here. So this is going to talk about, the first Thanksgiving, the relationship between the Wampanoag people and the Pilgrims on the Mayflower. Okay, so you should be able to see it now. Basically, as you watch this video today and tomorrow, you're going to answer all the questions in the After the Mayflower assignment. It's all in chronological order, so as you go through, you'll be able to answer them as it goes through the video. Okay, all right, so do you have that open now?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, here we go. Maybe it's pausing. Just drop my water. Come on. Well, maybe it'll play. Okay, let's do this then.
Almost nothing is known about the most iconic feast in American history, not even the date. It happened most likely in the late summer of 1621, a little less than a year after the Wampanoag saw a small group of strangers land on their shores. Half these strangers, men, women, and children, had died of disease, hunger, or exposure in their first winter on the unforgiving edge of North America. But by the next summer, with the help of the Wampanoag, the Pilgrims had taken a harvest sure to sustain the settlement through the next barren season. And they meant to celebrate their faith that God had smiled on their endeavor.
We should have this done in no time.
As the Thanksgiving began, a group of Wampanoag men, led by their chief, Massasoit, entered the Plymouth settlement, not entirely sure of the reception they'd get.
Massasoit.
Sometimes the Pilgrims are saying back off, and sometimes I think they bring the Wampanoags closer, depending on what circumstances are like. But this is a celebration of their survival, of their recognition that they probably wouldn't have survived without the assistance of these Indians. This is a time clearly when they're welcome.
The
governor cannot man him to stay.
Massasoit and his men had not appeared empty-handed. They brought 5 fresh-killed deer, providing some of the victuals for a celebration that stretched over the next 3 days.
Musketeers, make ready! Musketeers, fire!
The Wampanoag and the Pilgrims were an unlikely match, but the two peoples were bound by what they shared, an urgent need for allies. The Pilgrims were completely alone in a new world, separated by thousands of miles of ocean from friends and family. The Wampanoag, badly weakened by rolling epidemics, lived in fear of rival tribes. That they found one another in 1621 looked like a boon to each.
The Thanksgiving celebration at Plymouth was certainly an unusual event. It's not something we see thereafter. It symbolizes where the relationship stood as of the fall of 1621.
I'm glad you're amused anyway. Like it then, eh? Belly chair. Try some of this, good one.
Mata. Begitu mau uni. Begitu mau uni. Nakis.
For the English, it establishes that they're going to be able to survive because of the Native Americans.
Some kind of gambling game.
There are strong personal relationships certainly going on among the leading political figures on each side, and for all we know, among other individuals as well.
Window, Pao Chow. Pao Chow. Window. Window, Pao Chow.
So check. See? Up, up, up. Hop, hop.
For those who followed the Pilgrims across the Atlantic, the first Thanksgiving would enter into national mythology, where it remains the bright opening chapter of the American creation story. For the Wampanoag and for Massasoit, the memory of that day would recede into darker places, shadowed by betrayal and loss.
It's as if you could take the storybook version of American history, the myth of the first Thanksgiving, and turn it entirely upside down. Here's this story that's sad, that's sinister, and finally is about cruelty and power.
Looking back, Massasoit would on one level have felt he was true to himself, but on another level he must have regretted what he'd done. He must have thought, what if we'd taken a different course of action in dealing with these people?
They lived in a place of privilege, at the edge of a world where every new day began, and they called themselves the Wampanoag, the people of the first light.
Well, think about it. You're here, you are in the east, you see the sunrise. In relation to your world, to what you know, you are the people of the first light. You are the Wampanoag.
Behind the Wampanoag, the sun's west-moving light slowly revealed 3,000 miles of human culture, from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific.
Indian people shaped this continent. They established civilizations here, societies that had risen and in some cases fallen long before Europeans arrived. As you look across the continent at this time, Shawnees in the Ohio Valley are shaping that area, building their own societies. Cherokees in the southeast, Sioux in the western Great Lakes reaching out on the plains, Apaches on the southern plains and in the southwest. Everywhere across North America, there are communities and tribes and peoples whose histories are ongoing.
Walkish, you want the owner. Wanna? Kashpanashwini. Nakis. Matai Wuni.
The confederation of tribes that made up the Wampanoag was one small network section of the native web that spread across North America. The people of the first light hugged the coast of a vast ocean. To the north were the people of the Big Hill, the Massachusetts. To the west and inland were the Nipmuc, the people of the fresh water. Then the Mohegan and Pequot, and the Narragansett.
Algonquin is the name
Just
of
think of this one
the
big
group
circle,
that they were part
and
of.
everyone speaking different dialects of an Algonquin language, but they were mutually intelligible. So we're all interrelating with each other, married, trading.
Did you get that, Kylinda? Sorry, Kylinda, did you get that?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, perfect.
Sharing resources, using resources.
It was a community of communities, and they had intermeshed and had their own agendas, their own political problems, their own warfare, and their own trade. There was a rich sort of political interaction in this region.
Sometimes everyone gets along and sometimes they don't, but they resolve the conflicts, sometimes through military activity and sometimes through negotiations. We had times when we forgave offenses as part of our tradition, when certain ceremonies were held, like the Green Corn Festival, which was held around the harvest time for the corn. That was a time when you would forgive all the offenses of your different people that you might not have been in good terms with, and you would invite them to the ceremony, and they would come and you'd exchange songs and dances. We continue with that because we believe that everything we had was a gift from the Creator.
The half-dozen neighboring tribes had achieved a balance of power, the weaker paying tribute to the stronger. The Wampanoag had sufficient numbers to defend their territory against their nearest rivals, the Narragansett. And the bounty of the land itself eased intertribal tensions. The shallows of the ocean and the bays gave up heaps of shellfish. Inland rivers watered the growing fields, where the Wampanoag cultivated corn, beans, squash. The woodlands were filled with game for food and furs to get them through the cold, dark of winter. In 1615, the land sustained tens of thousands of people.
The explorers who describe these regions all describe the native peoples of New England living in these very populous villages. In fact, Champlain, sailing for the French, decided that they didn't want to colonize New England because there were too many people here.
For 100 years, alien ships had trolled off the Wampanoag coast, apparitions on the horizon. Odd-looking European explorers and fishermen occasionally came ashore, but they made scant effort to establish relations. The visitors were known to kill native people or to capture and carry away men and women. But in the centuries since Columbus, the Europeans had yet to leave any real footprint on the Wampanoag shores.
In the years 1617 to 19, an epidemic swept through New England. We don't know exactly what disease this was, and some of the reports of symptoms seem to suggest different diseases. It's possible that one followed rapidly upon the other.
A normal epidemic hits a few people and then other people get sick, but the first people start getting better. In this case, everyone gets sick at once.
A sickness was usually interpreted as an invasion of hostile spiritual powers, and the native people had medicine men, whom they called powwows, who were experts at countering the spirits of the diseases with which native people had experience. In this case, the powwows were ineffective. Often they were victims themselves.
The way that native people refer to it is that the world turned upside down.
Okay, we're gonna pause. Oh, there we go. We're gonna pause it right there. Basically, that last question they just got that rampaged or ravaged them was the diseases that came. So that's where we're gonna pause for today. We're going to finish watching this tomorrow. So yeah, get everything done with your poster turn that in, and we'll continue this tomorrow. All right?
Okay.
Okay, see you tomorrow.
See ya.